but not as far as Jupiter at least.
Yeah.
We're definitely not going to one of the Jovian moons. It's certainly not Europa.
Sure, yeah. I mean, none of them, I guess.
Not one. This, on the other hand, it's not IO. Talon Esports are going to be bringing out their version of the bunker. They've won without Batiste, actually. So, again, it's that other kind of adaptation where if Jupiter, if they're maybe expecting a Bastion, expecting a Batiste, well, it's not going to be that, at least not for now.
That being said, I feel like this actually might help Jupiter a touch because, I mean, I feel they're more likely to have prepared against this. Maybe even a Bastion that's not there, but they don't have to deal with the Batiste. They can just kind of deal with things they've dealt with previously. And
previously would be King's Row, so they kind of have seen this already on a map, but it's on a different map, and the setup is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal, especially Apudo's got these big open sight lines.
Yeah, Claire really getting kind of left out in the cold sometimes here, and so much pressure that comes out of Apudo. That's just, you know, every single one of those members is one headshot away from dead.
And we do want to look at ultimate charge here as well, specifically on the Talon side of things, because while they're doing a lot of that damage, and Apudo's going to go down.
That's the pressure applied very, very nicely, and Ken Mahororo on the backside ready to finish that one off. Now getting pressure onto the point itself. Ryu's been low for quite a while here, so now Rez coming in onto CQB. This is Talon's opportunity to counter-attack because Jupiter haven't fully recovered from that push in. They're going to go ahead and push forward in their own right with a nano boost. It's actually going to be committed onto Ryu, but Claire down. Brilliant placement on the anti here from NN. They're still trying to find some kind of counter kill, and without Claire, it's very difficult. There's no Rez available. CQB still has his. Jupiter don't have many other ultimates just yet.
And Sabagod's trying really hard to heal. He's a solo healer right now, but he's also low, and Supercharger down means it's time to finish this fight.
So think so much pressure, so much damage that comes out from Talon here. They do have to commit pretty much everything they've got here. They've held on to the Bob, and soon they will have a Riptire as well. So that was a bit of a tough situation, I would have to say, for Jupiter, who also ended up falling just shy, literally 0.1% short of that second tick.
And by the way, not going to be able to stop Gagora from remaking here as well. So Talon Esports, once again, going to be able to regroup fully. Bashful went down the last fight. He's back in play now. But look at Jupiter. They actually have ultimates, big ones here, EMP and the Blade, expecting some fireworks to go off this fight.
All they really need is to get some leverage out of that. Bashful, oh, nice hack, cancels out the Riptire. That is phenomenal. That's one of your prime targets out of the EMP. But
cancels out the Dragon Blade, though.
Side, that's the thing. Still, ultimates getting cancelled, and Jupiter are the ones the worst for wear in terms of the actual fight itself. So that nice hack, a fight does not make.
It's a good start, though. A very, very clean start for Jupiter. That kind of ends a little bit poorly there, especially Anakin getting shut down straight away. Because Kemahororo is still so far away, doesn't get to play the EMP, and a lot of members of Jupiter go down super fast. And Talon now continuing to defend, giving away one tick, still waiting for that second tick to come through, and we're nearing that 1 minute mark. And it's got to be a reset.
I mean, this is Jupiter having a huge advantage coming into this next fight because not only do they have the EMP, they've got a couple of other ultimates to work with, and Talon have nothing. But the extra time lost there, first of all, that makes things harder for B if they do actually get there, and also it gives Talon time to obviously charge up some ultimates of their own.
And I think Anakin definitely wants to give a bit more pressure back towards Apudo, understanding that the Dragon Blade and the Genji not being as effective as he likes, so maybe the Widow will have more success specifically to put down Apudo from long range.
There's the EMP, it only catches a couple of members, and they need to actually finish them off, otherwise it's all for now. They're having a hard time, they finally get CQB, now pressure on Apudo, they're trying to keep a lid on him, and he loses the sniper duel there, Anakin. Samurai D gets the rest committed to him as well. Whoa, Apudo, that's not the direction he wanted to walk in, he is going to get found out there and finished off. So now Jupiter, numbers advantage, they do have the closer respawn as they come onto the point.
And they do lose the ultimate, at least for now, though Bashful's trying as hard as trying to get that next tire up available.
It's just not happening cleanly enough. Jupiter start committing, they lose a member on the way, they don't actually make any ground, they don't actually get any kills. It seems like everything they throw in does nothing. And by the way, in this time, Talon have charged up ultimates that they're now just going to throw into Jupiter. Every single one of them. And now Riptire, just for the, I mean, the heck of it, really. It didn't even get any kills, didn't need to at that point. That becomes a full hold here for Talon. And man, Jupiter's execution when they actually commit to fights is just not there.
But we just talked about, before we even went into this map, okay, at what stage for Jupiter do they run out of time for trying to find the correct answer? Because despite kind of playing this composition, going up against, you know, the same defense on King's Row, Jupiter walk into this one, they're playing the Sombra, they don't have the Hanzo this time, and that's a decent option for them, that's fine. You don't want to go up against Apudo's Ash from that kind of long range, but the Genji certainly wasn't working, the Widow was kind of also not really working. Anakin tries to go on the Tracer as we get to the final few seconds there, and nothing was really clicking. It was kind of there. They got 67%. That's all they're going to get for the rest of that entire offense. But even getting some early picks, even getting some early advantages, they could never really turn that into a fight victory. And you just have Talon Esports regrouping. Apudo goes down, doesn't matter. The other 5 pick it up. Bashful gets the kills, doesn't matter. I mean,
and that's the thing. It doesn't matter as well if that composition is technically a theoretical answer that Jupiter might have for that bunker comp, because if the execution isn't clean enough, if you can't pick these kills up without just losing members constantly, if you can't even get a numbers advantage, which is what they had at the very end there, if you can't do that and then be able to actually take the fight on the point, kill the tanks, kill the members that are holding that ground. If you can't do the important parts of the execution, then it doesn't matter if you've got a theoretical answer.
I think they were already behind, right? Because you start giving ultimates away to the bunker. It's the setup part of that becomes very difficult because it is a long it's a long process to, get the bunker off the high ground, trying to get them onto the actual point, trying to take away the high ground advantage, trying to really just place them, set up your own angles, set up your own approaches. It kind of started off well, like I mentioned. They get some opening picks. Apudo dies, Bashful dies and gets his, Riptide cancelled, all of that, but it's not enough. They don't have enough critical mass to take that anywhere, and that's unfortunate for them to now be in a scenario where, to be quite fair, Talon Esports, much like we saw on the Kings Road time bank, they just need to do it in 4 minutes and they got it.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It actually feels like we are literally just playing Kings Row again, just without the preamble of a time bank. It's about 4 minutes on the clock for Talon, and it's about 2/3 that they need to cap.
And technically even less. I mean, they'll be even happier about that one. And to be fair, Jupiter's going to do the same defense. They're in the same scenario. They're going to attempt the same thing. And for Talon, I think this might just be Groundhog Day for them. They can just win in the same sort of manner as well.
Hey, he's a hamster, not a groundhog.
What about Roadhog?
So he's a roadhog. He's not a groundhog.
Yeah, but the roads are in the ground.
Well, they're on the ground.
What I do want to say here is I think for Talon, this is a super comfortable position for them to be in. Attacker's advantage here also does mean that they will have compositional swaps that they can rely on, and if they can decide on something very quickly, well, we saw what happened to Jupiter last time.
I'm sure the Wrecking Ball was originally going to be voiced by Bill Murray. He wasn't, but, I mean, it sounds plausible enough, but speaking of, Talon already just kind of getting onto that point. Sleep on Samurai D means he's been ineffectual, and the spam damage for Jupiter just hasn't had the same kind of effects. They're having a really hard time making any headway here.
Well, speaking of plausible, right, I mean, this is Jupiter currently just kind of already all over the place. Kimahororo's exposed.
He hasn't just been able to sit down and shoot like he wants. He's constantly under pressure, which is exactly what Talon needs to be doing here. Now finally able to set back up, but Muse is pressuring the point this whole time, so Claire is ending up having to be the one trying to answer that. Now Ryu's D-Max, they've got even less answers to anything Talon throw at them. A D-Mac on Gogora does help even things up just a touch.
And look how far back this bunker has had to hold now. They've given up so much positioning. Talon can now just take all the space they want, and Kimahororo is still onto the move. He just can't sit down like you mentioned.
And any more forward progress out of Bashful is honestly ground that Jupiter can't actually seed anymore at this point. They'd just be fully off the point, so they decide to throw on sand, and it's one that's not going to profit them well because they have to sit down and fight. They eventually just take too much damage. Now the Rocket Barrage is going to come in, does die, but Ken Mahororo is going to have a second really hero kind of play here if they want to turn this one back around. And they're really struggling, not even landing enough shots, not getting enough damage in. Does find Apudo at the 11th hour there and barely on enough hit points to be alive, but not on the point. And that means Talon win.
Drawing a line of the sand sounds about correct because it seems like Jupiter's built the defense on sand as well. It's just incredibly shaky. No foundation there whatsoever. They just lose all their space, go onto the low ground. Kimahororo doesn't even get to play in turret form for the most part. He's in the recon mode for so long. And for Talon Esports, I mean, a repeat of Kings Row, but even cleaner, even better, without the regular attack and defense phase, straight into what would have been just a time bank anyway. And it's like another day at work. If we talked about going back to status quo, I mean, I think this is it.
Now we're in a very different situation to any of the other series we've had so far in this playoffs. And this is where we do start to see the difference right now. not just between this, in the scope of this series compared to other ones, but also just between these two teams. I think right now, Jupiter might be breathing a sigh of relief that they're actually past those two game modes where you've got that static point, where that bunker composition is a thing, because it just seems to have been an insurmountable issue for them, both on the offense and on the defense. So now moving on to Escort, this could be where they can start turning it back in their favor, and then we go to the control, the tiebreaker for them, which again could be a favorable type for them here, but they're now on the back foot, where 2 maps ago they had started the series on the front foot.
And I think of these kind of scenarios as well, it's now becoming evidently clear, and we do sort of notice this anyway because the fact that Talon Esports do look like the strongest team currently in the competition, and a lot of it is built up upon very spectacular and outstanding individual members. When you start also considering that, look, Jupiter's own members are very good, but you look at DPS specifically as well as I want to highlight, Bashful and also Apudo specifically on snipers and also projectiles. We look at the fire, we look at the Junkrat. It is currently, in my opinion, significantly better than their opponents.
And that's the thing, it's all issues that they'll have to address, but like I said, might be breathing a sigh of relief that they are off those static game modes, and we're going to be moving forward, of course, onto Escort. If you are unfamiliar, well, here's how it works.
Welcome to Watchpoint Gibraltar. This is Escort. 2 teams face off as either defenders or attackers. This is the payload. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to escort the payload along a set path containing 3 checkpoints. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby at the same time. To get moving again, attackers must clear away the defenders by force. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. If even one attacker is near the payload when the clock runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared off the payload or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
Map number 4, Escort, will take place on Watchpoint Gibraltar, and for Jupiter, what a place to go to. If you remember from the quarterfinal, this is where things really started to turn around for Jupiter as they took the victory here, and then also on map number 5, and it will be a map number 5 that Jupiter needs to force if they want to continue this series and head to the finals.
Let's hope they're not relying on Muse disconnecting or something wacky like that. We sort of described Jupiter's quarterfinal last night as a bit of a harrowing experience. If they turn it back around here on Watchpoint Gibraltar, you'd like for it to be a much more smoothly run thing, all things considered. And I think they will have also just taken some general lessons both from that point of last night, because they did actually play very well when push came to shove, and also the earlier parts of this series.
And now we do have to also start looking at the fact that Talon is just an entirely different beast, because we have the case where at this sort of point in the quarterfinal, you kind of think, well, Global Esports and Jupiter trading fairly effectively. You do feel like the strengths of the teams are somewhat even, somewhat comparable, but based on Horizon, and even to be fair, based on Kings Row in the most part, especially how that time bank went, it's Talon just getting stronger and stronger here. Talon are just going further and further, and Jupiter seemingly have stalled.
That being said, when we did actually get to see Jupiter finally with some momentum on their side on Kings Row, they did still look good. So that could be a boon for them here. They also had decent momentum again when things got going for them back on Control. The thing that they really need to step up, though, in that regard would still be their defense against Talon. So still a lot to answer for here for Jupiter as they come into what could be their last outing in these playoffs.
It will once again be Talon and defending, and this is an important thing to note because so far, many of Jupiter's own defenses have been dictated by how far they get on attack for what has been now kind of a map and a half, including the time bank, not a lot. So Jupiter needs to get a lot done here on this offense to then secure themselves a good defensive positioning.
Definitely don't want to find themselves in a similar situation to what they have in the last 2 maps. They want to get a lot of progress. They also haven't quite seen what Talon are facing, or bringing out here rather.
They have now, and this is where, once you start noticing, okay, they're not on the high ground, no one's shooting at us, must be down the bottom, and this is exactly where Talon are going to try and force something. Jupiter going to walk in.
Yeah, they've also revealed the Mei, they've also revealed the Sombra, so no more surprises here, and now it's all about how Jupiter will answer this.
I think Jupiter as well, smart swaps by Samurai D, not going to play into the Mei.
Yeah.
Do want to try and get a multi-angle assault here if possible, and it's actually Bashful going to be on the Mei, so it's different to when Apudo played it.
This is an interesting spot for them. I mean, they can take advantage of the wall here potentially, but it's not quite ideal. It's a 1-for-1 so far, and you'd much rather have Muse still alive. Claire's got the closer respawn. The sleep on Ken Mahororo runs out, so now he's back in the fray as well. So Talon not really getting what they needed out of that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make some changes here, make some swaps.
I think Talon were definitely trying to take a bit of a risk here, and it's difficult to consider swaps because you're now close to the Blizzard, and you start thinking, well, if we kind of just keep the Mei for a little bit longer, ultimates do become a factor, and we kind of want to lean into that. In fact, Gagora and most of the team is nearly on it.
Now we'll have to see, though, if Jupiter can deal with this Mei better than what they did back on King's Row, where the wall was a real hassle for them in the second 2 phases there. But now Jupiter, still plenty of momentum as they move into what could be a last fight here. Self-destruct nicely placed to find in, and they're able to finish off Muse.
I think it was cancelled.
Yeah, that Blizzard did not get anything done, did not get to come out and have it showing. So Talon maybe kicking themselves for staying on that one for the sake of the ultimate.
And again, I mean, it's a bit of a risk, and it's something you do have to lean into to find a win condition. And you have a case where, okay, the self-destruct came through, so you know there's no defense matrix, but that's only one half of the equation.
Yeah.
There's still that Anakin stun that comes through that Bashful forgot about, and our Bashful wants to return that favor, going on to his own Brigader. This is a lot more comfortable for Talon now. Sombra Goats is what they rely on, and they have the EMP, which is the crux.
That being said, this is also now a little bit more comfortable for Jupiter. They've started to steer through some of the team compositions that were really causing trouble for them earlier on in the night. So now they get to sit tight, sit pretty on the 3-3. Talon, though, coming in with his EMP. Nice connection onto a lot of members, and there isn't exactly any defensive ultimates on the side of Jupiter to deal with this. They would just be relying on getting counter trades, and unfortunately have not found them. So pretty clean fight there for Talon.
And Talon don't have to use anything else either, so get to save all the big ones for that next fight. And you'd also have Jupiter where breathe a bit of a sigh of relief despite losing that fight, because they're at least on to B, and they haven't seen a B point for a while, I've got to say.
Yeah.
Talon now got to look for the next position to really set up this ironclad defense that they've been known for in the series so far.
That does mean it is on Jupiter to break back through it. They are coming up on a grab. Quite there on the self-destruct just yet, nor the sound barrier to deal with Gagora's grab, so love to see how they approach this.
And this is where Claire needs the sound barrier as well, because a lot of big weapons on the side of Talon, and expecting them to maybe respond here. Comes the grab.
There's going to be the, well, look at that, all just thrown out there from Muse, and unsurprisingly, Talon going to be able to pick up some kills off the back of it, but all things considered, that ends up being quite a cheap fight for Jupiter. They only committed the grab, and Talon ended up committing 3 ultimates.
What you do see, though, from Talon is the fact that Apudo gets close to another EMP. He's nearly there. Needs a few more seconds to get it up, and the real bank for this Talon squad is, okay, you can use the 2 tank ultimates and maybe a sound barrier if then you win that next fight with that EMP. It's about the rotations, and based on the ultimate rotations, Talon just need to keep this ultimate engine working.
Difference between this EMP and last one is this time Claire will have a sound barrier, so if he doesn't get caught in it, there is an opportunity here, but he needs to stay safe. Oh, he does start trapping it, but it's not quick enough to save Ryu and Samurai D. Just that slight delay, that slight gap, and then ends up being brilliant for Talon. They start getting those tank ultimates charged back up.
And the timing of Talon Esports as well. I mean, the EMP comes down, instantly everyone collapses on 2 members. Claire can only do so much. First of all, he's hiding off to the side, so he's already got some distance between himself and the rest of the team. Second of all, a sound barrier needs a second or something to actually connect with the rest of the members. So, I mean, It's just unfortunate. It is not a Transcendence, and that's a big difference.
It's a surprisingly long channel time. That's the thing. There's going to be Earth Shatter from Samurai D. Does get Muse on the back, does force the Transcendence out from in, but this is where Talon can maybe start pushing in themselves. Jupiter are in a bit of a confined space here. Have to use Nano Boost to try and force back out, along with Self-Destruct tossed way into the backline. Does not find anything, though, and that means now the Nano Boost also running out as Jupiter only just round up on the cart, but big catch on a Pudo. That could have been very devastating otherwise. Grab is available for Gagora. There's no real defensive tool here for Jupiter. We'll have to see if they can just live through this one, outlast the damage. It's going to be a tough ask. Anakin down. Earth Shatter available for Muse as well. Again, Talon just kind of have it all, not even needing to use these ultimates as they start closing out this fight. Now only a minute left on the clock for Jupiter, and really no better off than they were a minute ago.
That's going to be a big problem for Jupiter now. This is what they have to run into if they want to run this kind of composition. No real defense is unfortunately what's going to be written on their tombstone if they're not too careful. They don't have a lot of chances remaining, less than 1 minute here, and Talon have a lot of big ultimates, including that big EMP.
We've seen this happen so often. Jupiter really favoring the Ana and finding themselves struggling against things like EMP, against things like Grab, that other teams are almost guaranteed to try and run against you. At least one of those things will be present. Now Jupiter, despite how well they played against this comp back on Nepal, struggling against it here.
And I think Talon are going to get both the support ultimates. Gagora's sleeping, that might be something.
And Hack now.
He should be able to get out alive, and
Yeah.
so it's just another missed opportunity. Unfortunately, Jupiter not going to be able to capitalize there.
There's no way for those other members to get up onto that high ground. Now EMP comes out, Claire does not at the sound barrier
Too
yet.
late?
Yeah, with two, I mean, and at that point, those two members were already long dead. This one feels like it could be an overcommitment, even with the kill on a Pudo. They threw out Ryu's Grab, and you've got to ask yourself why. The answer is actually because
go
they're
next.
out of time. They had to commit all in on that fight, and they've just got nothing to show for it. Jupiter hitting a big brick wall in the form of Talon, who are out executing, out macroing, out rotating, and out defending.
And the master builders for sure here, just putting up that iron defense, the brick walls, all the metaphors there, and unfortunately the battering ram doesn't exist for Jupiter. It kind of has been there maybe for a little bit on King's Row, and it was quite effective, but since then it's now almost been long forgotten. We're 4 maps deep at match point in a scenario where once again Jupiter have failed to complete this map on what should be a strength for them. We talked about the Jupiter attack as being something that was working quite well for them in the quarterfinal, and now that isn't working anymore.
This is where Talon might just be about to punch their ticket to another finals. The last time they were in one, it was against Jupiter, so this would be a kind of poetic way for them to get back to one. That means they keep the dream alive of becoming the first team in the Pacific region to win 2 titles.
And it's not just about taking down Jupiter, it's what it means to go back to that final for Talon, who kind of may have felt robbed in that last season. Remember, in Season 3, Talon along with Hong Kong Attitude, and in some cases, maybe even above Hong Kong Attitude, were considered the favorites for the tournament. Now being in that scenario again, first seed after regular season, strongest team based on what it looks like, and Talon Esports, if they were to get upset before reaching finals, that would certainly be something that it would be quite difficult for them to get over. And for now, Talon Esports sticking to the plan, sticking to what could be destiny here on their way to that first grand final of the season this year.
It's all on the line now here for Jupiter as well. Their return season. Last time they were here, they made it to a final. Might just come up short this time around, though. They've already kind of outperformed what they achieved in the regular season, though, so maybe they'll just take this and learn from it. But they're also not done just yet.
And Talon, they've had good defenses, they've had also good offenses as well. They're now going to lead in on that. Jupiter's going to make everything count.
They're going to have a much better defense than what they've had really anywhere else on this series, excluding arguably Control, but that is a very different kettle of fish.
Already looking at this cart movement. Decent's going to give Talon Esports the ability to rotate around and looking for that high ground fight, looking for that opening.
Nice bio grenade, though, to land down. Sabagod really getting some mileage out of it there. Innen's going to go down, and because they took so much damage, Talon, instead of pressing into a fight, immediately pivoted into a retreat. In that circumstance, Jupiter had the superior positioning.
And well played as well, the individual playmaking there. This is why you can pick Sabagod onto the Ana. Notably, he's actually playing... I mean, they have been caught out in the past here, and they may be caught out again. I was going to say, you do want to have players on their preferred roles. Unfortunately for them, there is a diva available, and Gagora should have his eyes peeled for that next Bionate.
Yeah, certainly don't want to let that same passage of play out twice now, Talon. Even if they have to make the same kind of rotation, which they honestly might just have to. Jupiter can commit to this cart freely.
We'll have to look at how Jupiter want to go in when they're close to Ultimate's Primal Rage coming up online. Nano Boost soon as well.
It's a lot of pressure onto Samurai D. Who
That Bone doesn't hit.
Yeah, that's not a lot. Now that is on cooldown. This is an opportunity for Talon Goods. Stun onto Bashful for just a fraction of a hair. Now we're going to get aggressive into this fight as Jupiter just before Talon have ultimates available and see if they can pick up anyone.
And now Ultimate's coming online. Double support Ultimates here. Looking at Ryu. Will he use Graviton Surge?
They can just wait this out. The grab going to come in after the Transcendence has ended, and they've already got good damage. That's to say nothing of the self-destruct also being lobbed up, which won't get any kills in its own right, but Jupiter do have the damage to pick up the rest. So already off to a fairly hot start on this defense now. They kill on Gogora, and Jupiter rotating back into some of the ultimates they'd expended one fight prior.
And I think Jupiter have a good opportunity here because they're actually in the 3-3 mirror, or at least semi-mirror. Look at Zenyatta versus the Ana. But for Jupiter, this is the kind of compositional matchup that they do want to play in. This is kind of what happened also on that Nepal to start with. So kind of going back there, Jupiter, if they can really lean on that victory, can still find a victory on Gibraltar.
And it might actually mean that it's up to Talon to swap and change things up right now. Ooh, big stun on the Samurai D. He takes a lot of damage at the start of that Primal Rage, so they're not really getting much out of that ultimate here.
And let's see how Claire wants to be able to defend, because Apudo's about to hit that Graviton Surge button. For Talon Esports, this should be the go as well. This should be now where they are the strongest and Jupiter are at their weakest in terms of ultimates.
They would have liked to combo Nano Boost with that Primal Rage as well, but unfortunately the timing does not quite line up. So now Talon, it's their turn to dictate the pace. It's going to be first Primal Rage.
Oh, he's down!
Got out from the fight as well, and this is already a chunk of members dropping like flies to what Talon have. That was great execution from Talon. Like I said, isolating Sabagon because they recognize that the Nano Boost could be the thing that turns it back around for Jupiter, and then just clean up the rest of the members in the main section of the fight.
You know what else could have turned it around for Jupiter? It was that sound barrier. But Claire, unfortunately, got shut down midway. And speaking of shut down right now, they're taking down all the spawners, and this is going to give them an open path directly to the cap.
Were Jupiter not expecting that? Were they not expecting these
They didn't have a choice.
tanks?
They didn't have a choice. They spawned close because that was what the timer was. It's how the game is, man. Sometimes it's just how the dice rolls, and Jupiter right now need to roll up some bigger numbers.
And just not quite able to make their way out of that one. And that means that Jupiter are now actually the ones attacking here just to force Talon back off. Still about 2.5 minutes. A long defense ahead of them if they can even get it going.
All comes down to this for Jupiter right now. Could be the final defense here, and Talon, they're really starting to charge up. They're really starting to charge in.
They've started to get less and less out from each and every one of those nano boosts. The sleep on Muse was cute, but where's the damage going to come in? They try and get the grab out, but they're not able to follow it up thanks to in with the Transcendence. So Jupiter still just looking for some way in. Will the Primal Rage do it? Will the Self-Destruct do it? They do find Bashful, so that is something. It is maybe an opening.
Grab coming up.
This is so close. If it swings back the other way, if Talon find an end in this fight, then it totally turns around. Nicey catching Apudo's grab there. Now they push their way forward. They also find Gogora as he was channeling the self-destruct. He will not remech. Jupiter have had to throw everything in the kitchen sink, but arguably Talon had to do the same, or maybe you could argue they hold on to the kitchen sink.
If there's going to be an MVP to put Jupiter into that map 5, it's probably going to have to be Cam Mahorora right now. It's been saving the team on King's Row, been eating the grabs on this map as well, including others. And for Talon Esports, look, there's certainly ball still in their court. It's certainly them still making that final push in with a decent amount of time remaining. But Jupiter are really trying to make them work for it.
This is going to have to be the nano boost that actually gets work done. That is a huge biotic grenade, but they can't follow up on it just yet. So now Talon push out with a big window. Looking to get some opening kills in the rotation. Nano boost going to come out here. They need to get damage. They need to get kills. Sleep on Gogora, but he's too far away for this to finish off. Now Muse can pop Primal Rage, given that that ultimate, that sleep dart rather, not available. Look at this, just pushing inward. Jupiter still waiting on ultimates, but now here they come.
Ryu's got grab, and this is really important right now. Talon have no defense. It does not have Transcendence.
Great timing there, and they are going to be able to clean up those kills. That is just so down to the wire, so incredibly close. Less than a minute remaining. Jupiter have rotated into the ultimates that they need for what will be their last defense.
But they still need some more ultimates because they do not have the sound barrier, and guess what, Apuro? He does have a Graviton Surge. So now eyes back on Hororo, if he does not eat this Graviton Surge, if Apudo puts it down and there is no sound barrier, or if Clear is shut down again, then Jupiter may roll over. They do not have the right kind of defense to live against this, and Talon Esports can smell this victory right now. They can smell that grand finals.
They're in for a real fighting chance here, Jupiter, but their entire opportunity to stay in this playoffs is predicated on the micro executions, the things that they have struggled with the last two maps, and now here they come in for it. Grab does connect in, no defensive tool, no sound barrier, and two members already done for. Jupiter, they get nothing with the self-destruct, they're getting nothing with the primal rage, and Talon are just leading
shut down!
their superior ultimates. No sleep nuts, no nothing. Anakin is going to try and dive in on the Doomfist, but might not even get here before the members are dead on the cart, and Talon looking to push it over the line, looking to march that cart directly into a semi-final. Do not pass go, do not collect $200.
And Talon right now, it is the destiny, it is the prophecy being fulfilled to go to that grand finals. The strongest team that we can see right now, the favorites for the tournament, will now have that opportunity to be the first repeat winners of Contenders in the Pacific region, of all professional play in the Pacific regions. A 3-1 victory. Jupiter put up a hell of a fight, but it's not going to be enough today.
And Jupiter are going to re-watch that final fight on Watchpoint Gibraltar time and time again between now and Season 2, because for them, Season 1 has now officially ended. They are out of the playoffs. The third, fourth place finish is what they will walk away with. That's not really what they were hoping to get out of their grand return to the Pacific region after a season away, but of course now they do get to come back. Ideally, directly next season, where maybe they will come in again with a chance to get the title that they have still been unable to attain.
It is, of course, the same team from that last appearance from Jupiter all those seasons back that gets in their way, that proves too difficult to overcome. Now, two different rosters, two different variations of that same team, of that Talon organization on their way. Last time it was the Grand Finals victory. This time it will be a birth into that Grand Finals. So for Jupiter, next season will await them. But for Talon, it's that next victory. It's that next celebration. It's that next possibility of a repeat victory.
And this new incarnation of Talon, I guarantee, will be so excited to move forward. Let's check out that final fight one last time.
And I want to point out here, so Apudo definitely waits for Hororo to use his defense matrix. There you can see it right now. It's gone. He knows the 2-second cooldown. Spams that down. Look at Clear now, 94%. Doesn't quite have the sound barrier. Watch what happens when he actually does get the sound barrier. By now, it's probably too late anyway. Uses it, gets stunned up, gets shut down. That's the second time he got shut down on this very defense. The first time was on A. Didn't get to use his sound barrier because Apudo just basically lasered him down while he was trying to channel it mid-air. So it's just so well played by Talon Esports, identifying this is how we win and this is how we shut down the correct members.
That's the thing. They could not have disrupted Jupiter's potential win condition there any better than they did throughout the course of that fight. That is what ends up being the difference between these two teams. Like I said at the top of that fight, micro execution. But Talon now, they'll be dead chuffed to make it back to a final here. And it's not just because they weren't able to do it last season. It's also because this has been that rebuild season. Look, you'd be happy to just make playoffs, heck, even bottom out in a quarter, and just treat this as a learning experience as a new squad comes together. Instead, they've now got some of those members that were back on that Talon that won, who are looking to get that repeat performance, prove that they're just as good as they were then. And then you've got those new faces, which even includes people, veterans of the region, but new to the team. I want to highlight in there Apudo, who for over 2 years now has battled his way through the season and will finally, for the first time ever, appear in a grand final.
Yeah, this is as far as he has ever gone, and he's not stopping here. He might be stepping outside the shy, but he's going all the way to Mount Doom. And this is now, we also have to look at this Jupiter lineup where, unfortunately, we look at the start of the season, we look at how the regular season went, two very different stories here. Talon didn't start out as the favorites, but we knew they had the potential to be. By the time we get to the end of the season, we pretty much can declare them as that, and now after this semifinal, they absolutely are. And we look at the Jupiter, unfortunately, never really had that kind of title, that distinction as a potential favorite. We thought, okay, they've made finals before, maybe they could do it again.
They'll be a playoffs team,
but let's be real, it was a super tough season for them. Number 5 seed overall, 3-4 record. That's a far cry from number 1 and 6-1 record. I think Jupiter can be very pleased with how far they've made it. The fact that they upset Global Esports, who placed above them, to even get to a semi-finals. This has been a very good return for them, and they certainly can't be too disappointed.
And also a much more competitive series against Talon than what they had just a week ago. On the whole, it already feels like Jupiter kind of outperformed what they had done throughout the regular season, and they themselves will also probably take this season as a learning experience on the whole. Hopefully come back next season even stronger. But of course, there's still a spanner in the works here potentially for Talon as we move forward. And that lies in that other semi-final where one of the teams playing will be the only team to have beaten Talon throughout the course of this regular season. So now Talon could kick their feet up for a couple of weeks, watch this next semi-final, and maybe have their fingers crossed that Xavier score a second upset.
And we'll see, you know, if that can happen, because as much as we talk about, look, Nova should be the favorite in that one, number 2 seed going in versus number 6 seed. Again, a bit of a far cry, but this is a region and a season, much like the previous season, where upsets can happen and have already happened. But that is just a preview, a teaser of what comes after this break. It will be the second and final semi-final to decide who else joins Talon right at the top in that grand final. It's all going to happen right after this break.